A Christian television network reaching 2 billion homes, a family publicly fracturing in real time, a child abuse allegation investigated by police and closed without charges, a pandemic loan used to buy a private jet, an estate quietly downsized and moved into private trusts in the final year of its owner's life. This is not a clickbait story. Every element of what you are about to hear is documented, reported by named journalists, confirmed by court records, police statements, and public financial filings. This is the full Daystar story, and it is more complicated and more human than any headline has captured. Joni Lamb co-founded Daystar Television Network in 1993 alongside her husband Marcus Lamb. What they built over the following 3 decades was genuinely significant. A Christian broadcasting network now reaching more than 2 billion homes worldwide. A platform that carried gospel ministry into living rooms across the globe. Marcus Lamb died suddenly in November 2021. Joni continued. She remarried in 2023 to Dr. Doug Weiss, a Christian counselor and sex therapist who had been a frequent Daystar guest. She remained at the center of the network's operations, and then, one by one, a series of events unfolded that placed Daystar under a level of public scrutiny it had never previously faced. Joni Lamb died on May 7, 2026, at the age of 65, from health complications following a back injury. She did not live to see the story fully resolved, and the story is not fully resolved. Jonathan Lamb was Joni's son. He served as vice president of Daystar and was widely understood to be the presumed successor to the network's presidency. In late 2024, Joni Lamb fired him. The official Daystar position was that Jonathan had been orchestrating what they described as a blackmail and smear campaign, Forgio's Maramacho, motivated, they alleged, by frustration over not being immediately named president following his father's death. He said his termination was direct retaliation for raising concerns about internal issues within the ministry, issues he believed needed to be addressed rather than suppressed. 2 completely contrary accounts, both stated publicly, neither resolved before Joni's death. But the firing of Jonathan was not the most serious allegation to emerge from this conflict. That came next. Jonathan Lamb and his wife Susie made a public allegation that their young daughter, Joni's granddaughter, had been sexually abused by a male relative connected to the family. They further alleged that Joni Lamb and Daystar leadership had covered up the incident, that the network's reputation had been prioritized over the child's safety, that internal accountability had failed completely. Joni Lamb and Daystar strictly denied any cover-up. The allegation was serious enough that it was referred to law enforcement. Colleyville police investigated. In May 2025, Colleyville police closed the investigation. Their stated reason: insufficient evidence. No charges were filed. That is the verified outcome of the criminal investigation. It does not mean the allegation was false. It means that law enforcement, with the evidence available to them, could not meet the standard required for criminal charges. The closure of a police investigation does not resolve the human reality of what Jonathan and Susie alleged. It does not answer the questions about how the situation was handled internally. It does not provide closure to anyone in that family. What it provides is a legal endpoint, and legal endpoints and moral reality are not always the same thing. The conflict between Jonathan and Joni was not only about the abuse allegation. When Joni married Doug Weiss in 2023, less than 2 years after Marcus Lamb's death, Jonathan publicly opposed the union. His stated objection was theological. He argued the marriage lacked biblical grounds because of Weiss's previous divorce, a position grounded in a specific interpretation of Christian teaching on remarriage. That theological disagreement became personal, it became public, and it was broadcast, at least in its outlines, to the network's audience of millions. A Christian broadcasting network founded on family values was watching its own founding family fracture in real time over questions of faith, marriage, and authority. For longtime Daystar viewers, that fracture was deeply disorienting. The internal family conflict was not the only source of institutional scrutiny Daystar faced. Financial questions had been raised by critics, by former donors, and by journalists including Julie Roys of The Roys Report. The most documented specific allegation involved pandemic-era PPP loan funds. Allegations surfaced that Daystar had used a portion of those funds, intended for payroll support during the COVID-19 pandemic, toward the acquisition of a private jet. Daystar later repaid the amount in question. The repayment is documented, whether the original use was improper, whether it reflected a broader pattern of financial management practices, and what oversight structures existed within the ministry, or the BOA. Those questions were investigated and reported on but not fully resolved through any legal proceeding. There were also questions raised about the acquisition of multi-million-dollar personal properties and the use of ministry funds in ways that donors felt were inconsistent with the charitable purpose of their contributions. Long-term donors publicly demanded the return of contributions. Daystar refused those refund demands, characterizing them as stemming from a corrupt spirit of greed and power, language that reflected the intensity of the conflict without resolving the underlying financial questions. The public exposure of these events produced measurable consequences for Daystar as an institution. Multiple outside ministries officially cut ties with the network. They pulled their programming and publicly distanced themselves from Daystar in the wake of the abuse allegations. The departures were documented and reported. And in her final year, before her health began to fail, Joni Lamb quietly made significant changes to her personal financial arrangements. She downsized her estate, she sold properties, she moved assets into private trusts, arrangements that would shield those assets from probate court proceedings following her death. The Christian Post reported on those moves. Their significance, whether they were standard estate planning for a 65-year-old with known health challenges, or something more deliberate in the context of the institutional pressures Daystar was facing, is a question the reporting raises without fully answering. Here's the thing about the Daystar story that no single headline has fully captured. Every person in it is a real person. Jonathan and Susie Lamb made allegations about their daughter, their child, that they believed to be true and important enough to state publicly at enormous personal cost. Whether or not those allegations could be proven to the standard required for criminal charges, the parents who made them were doing so out of something real. Joni Lamb built a ministry over 30 years, with her husband, from nothing, that genuinely reached people, that provided what millions of viewers described as real spiritual sustenance, and she defended that ministry against what she characterized as a deliberate campaign to destroy it. Both of those things existed at the same time, in the same family, on the same network. The donors who gave for decades and felt betrayed, they are real. The viewers who found genuine comfort in Daystar's programming, they are real. The ministries that cut ties, they made that decision based on their own assessment of what they were affiliated with. And Joni Lamb died, at 65, with the conflict unresolved, with her son not in the room, carrying whatever she knew about all of it. That is not a villain's ending, it is not a hero's ending, it is a human ending. Complicated, incomplete, and honest about nothing except that the full truth of what happened inside that family and that institution has not yet been told. The questions that remain open are significant. What happens to Daystar Television Network under its new leadership, without Joni, without Jonathan, with Doug Weiss in the background, is an institutional question that will unfold over months and years. The financial questions raised about the ministry have not been resolved through any regulatory or legal proceeding. Whether they ever will be, is unknown. Jonathan and Susie Lamb said, after Joni's death, in the words Susie posted with trembling hands, that one day they will have words. That day has not come. The child at the center of the most serious allegation is growing up. Whatever happened and however it was handled, she is a real person living with the reality of it. And the millions of viewers who sent donations to Daystar and watched its programming and trusted its message are left days, as viewers and donors to any institution caught in this kind of fracture are left figuring out what to do with what they now know. Daystar Television Network was founded on a specific promise. That Christian broadcasting could reach the world. That faith, televised, could comfort and transform and connect. For many people, that promise was kept. The reach was real, the comfort was real, and the story of what happened inside the institution that made that promise is also real. The abuse allegation, the police investigation, the firing, the financial questions, the estate quietly rearranged in the final year, the family that could not find its way back together before the end. These things coexist, they do not cancel each other out. The honest version of the Daystar story holds all of it, the genuine reach and the genuine failures, the love that was real and the wounds that were also real. Joni Lamb built something that reached 2 billion homes. She also left questions that 2 billion homes cannot answer. The full story is still being written. Let me know what you think.